Hey ghouls and guys, this is Ravensdeath, Professor Ravensdeath, and on this installment of Ravensdeath Watches, I'm going to be talking about, reading about, waiting to be watching. So, it is watching, but in sort of a roundabout way. I was unabashedly a monster kid growing up, and my Bible was Forrest J. Ackerman's Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. One of my favorite types of articles that would turn up in the pages were the previews of horror flicks to come. You got nothing but a title, usually outrageous sounding, maybe a brief blurb, and with that you just imagine how cool the movie was going to be. I'd be obsessed with keeping my eye out for news on any of the titles that really sounded scary or cool. Sadly, these articles often promised more than they could deliver, and I grew to take them with a grain of salt. I recently found an old issue of Famous Monsters in a box of random old stuff, and it had one of those very articles in it. It's titled, "You'll Be Happy to Hear, Fear Haunts the New Year." So I thought it would be fun to see just how accurate a forecast it actually was of the fear to come in that new year. That year was 1973, 1974-ish. I'm guessing. It's an April 1973 cover date. Probably came out a little bit before that, so I'm going to guess maybe the new year they were talking was actually 1973. Not 100% sure. So right out of the gate, we have Something Wicked This Way Comes, going into production, possibly starring Christopher Lee. And that's what you would get a lot of in these articles. Rumors of casting, and I'm sure some of them were reliable rumors. Maybe they were, possible casting choices. Some of them seem to be made up out of thin air, but Something Wicked did get made, but about a decade later, though author Ray Bradbury was quoted as saying that his favorites for the lead were Peter O'Toole or Christopher Lee. But in the end, Jonathan Pryce got the gig. Lee had also finished the TV movie / pilot for Poor Devil with Sammy Davis Jr. Sadly, Poor Devil did not make it to series. 73 was a very busy year for Lee. In addition to Poor Devil, he appeared in The Satanic Rites of Dracula, which this very article has as coming soon as Dracula is dead and well and living in London. Lee also had The Wicker Man, The Creeping Flesh, Dark Places, and Nothing But the Night that year. And he shows up again later in the article. MGM had shot Soylent Green, though Famous Monsters only mentions cast members Edward G. Robinson and Celia Lovsky. No Charlton Heston, Joseph Cotton, Chuck Connors, Brock Peters. I had no idea Celia Lovsky had that big of a following in the 70s among kids reading horror magazines. Let's see, Kirk Douglas was in England making a remake of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This actually happened. It was a TV movie and a musical. Blackula Lives Again ended up as Scream, Blackula Scream, though Blackula is Beautiful and My Name in Blackula were also supposedly in the running. The return of Blackenstein happened, but they dropped the return of, which makes sense since I don't think it was a sequel. Hurd Hatfield said that he was under consideration for the lead in Diane Curtis's adaptation of Dracula. The role eventually went to Jack Palance. The article also mentions a number of Curtis's other TV horror projects coming out, 73, 74, including Frankenstein, which starred Robert Farnsworth and Bo Svensson, Dorian Gray with Shane Bryant, and The Turn of the Screw with Lynn Redgrave. The son of the Blob became Beware the Blob. Then Fari devotes far too much type to the very disappointing Orson Welles-led Necromancy. The Terror in the Wax Museum, that happened. The House of Seven Corpses, that happened. Earthquake 1980 is, I assume, just regular old Earthquake, with Charlton Heston. I didn't mention that he was in it, though, either, so maybe they had something against Heston. Nightmare Park was the house in Nightmare Park. The Mutations? Check. I, Monster, another Christopher Lee vehicle? Check. The Haunting of Hell House? Check, albeit as legend instead of haunting. And, oh yeah, The Exorcist managed to get released. I wonder how that went. 7 works by sci-fi author A.E. Van Vogt had been optioned, but I couldn't find evidence that any of them made it to the screen. George Pal had completed a pilot for a War of the Worlds TV series. Now, I don't know if that pilot ever saw release, but the series didn't launch until the 80s. Dr. Death added Seeker of Souls to its title. I couldn't find anything about The Ghouls Are Among Us. The TV movie Cyborg became the $6 million man, so that worked out okay. For The Mummy, the best I could come up with is Love Brides of the Blood Mummy. I have no idea if that's the one they're referring to. Oh wait, it's The Mummy and the Curse of the Jackals. But IMDb has that as a 1969 release. Wow, it must have been great to sit on the shelf that long. Next, it's Day of the Dolphins. Check. John Wyndham's Chronoplasm. No idea. Can't find anything about it. Then the last two, we had Sinbad's Golden Voyage, which became Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and Flesh Gordon. Now there's a double feature for you. The article ends with a news flash that The Return of Blackenstein had already spawned a sequel, The Fall of the House of Blackenstein. Supposedly it was in production, but I don't think so. Wishful thinking there. So, all in all, not a bad job. Most of the films did get made. Only a few went into development hell. If I find any more articles like this in old monster magazines, I'll check those out as well. Thanks for watching. This is Professor Ravensdeath wishing you watch in peace.